Well, inversion itself doesn't bother me too much, but the fact that bond yields don't go up when unemployment rates are supposed to be so low does worry me. And that is that at the most fundamental level, if you look at the private sector as a group in all these major countries, none of them actually borrowing money. They're actually saving money based on the flow of funds data. And if the private sector as a group is not borrowing money at these very low interest rates, then you have a problem, because if someone is saving money, which what the private sectors are doing all around the world, someone else has to borrow money to keep the economy going. And we don't have people on this side, which is why rates become so low. And on top of that, we have these trade issues that started middle of last year. So until middle of last year, people were saying, oh, it's a global synchronized economic recovery growth. After the trade problem started between the United States and China, now we have a synchronized economic slowdown. And so in addition to the more fundamental problems where private sector has been not borrowing money ever since 2008, and in the case of Japan, since 1990, we have this trade problem on top of it. So that worries me quite a bit.
What do you think it will take for the private sector then to start borrowing money again? Do you see some sort of moment, some sort of catalyst that could change things? Could it be a resolution to what we see going on with the trade war, which is, of course, making everyone nervous because no one really knows where it's going to end up?
Yes, the trade one is a huge problem, and I'm afraid it's going to be with us for a while, because you know, those of us in this industry, yours and mine, that is media and financial side, we actually benefited from globalization and trade. But there were actually very many losers from globalization and trade, free trade. And what we learned in universities is that free trade will always create winners and losers, but the gain the winners get is always much larger than the losses that losers sustain. So society as a whole should benefit from free trade. No one told us that this is actually predicated on one key assumption, and the key assumption is that the trade is balanced. If it's not balanced, what happens? If the country continues to run a deficit, like the United States, the number of losers begins to increase. And the last time US had a trade balance was 1980, nearly 40 years ago. And throughout this last 40 years, or 39 years, the losers kept on increasing until the presidential election, November 2016, when the number of losers was large enough to elect Trump president. I think this is a very big change in the global environment, because until that moment, emerging markets, many other countries in this region could always rely on US market, get themselves moving. Mm-hmm. But now the Americans are saying, wait a minute, we would like to sell, sell some goods to you also in return for buying your stuff. And that changes the whole environment in this part, especially this part of the world, which benefited from this very generous Americans who were willing to run large budget trade deficits to keep the world economy going. That world, I think, is changing.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.